All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Stock Analysis Friday. My name is Bennett McDowell with TradersCoach.com. And today we're going to look at stocks that you want to look at. That's the whole purpose of Stock Analysis Friday. I am going to give a brief synopsis on the overall market in the beginning. If you want a more detailed analysis, we do have services at TradersCoach.com for you to check out. And we have a very in-depth and comprehensive market update each and every week that we do call the Market Opportunity Report. So you're certainly welcome to subscribe to that. All right, so back to really Stock Analysis Friday here. Go ahead and type in the comments area stocks, and please do that in caps. Use all caps. And let's do 3 at a time. Keeps the flow moving. And let me know if you're long, short, or you're just thinking about that market as a possibility. And that will help me tailor my analysis specifically to your needs. Okay, so it's great to be back here. I come here every week and do this, and we have a lot of fun doing it, and we uncover quite a few stocks. So all good. All right, let me just go first, though, through the administrational items I need to go over. And of course, that includes talking a little bit about the risks involved in trading or even investing in the financial markets. I think we all know there is risk out there in this, but it's important to realize what your risk is when you actually go into a trade or an investment. So risk control or money management is what is usually referred to in that area. And basically, the amount of shares in stocks that you buy or contracts, if it's futures, also determine or become a factor in that. Where you're going to put your stop loss exit becomes a factor in that. I've written several books on managing risk, and I'll show you those in just a moment that may help you. But in the meantime, you want to make sure that you always trade with money you can afford to risk as well, called risk capital. So that's really important. And you know, past performance doesn't guarantee future performance in the markets because we deal in a realm of probabilities. And so please note that, which is why you need risk control. And then finally, you know, we're going to be talking about a lot of possibilities, right, in terms of stocks and so forth and ETFs. And remember, this is my opinion based off software I created. And I've been doing this now for over 30 years in the markets. We've had TradersCoach.com a little bit under that, but I was trading before that. We started TradersCoach.com back in the year 2000 officially. We had it kind of up and running a little bit before that. So we've been doing it a long time. And we use, like I said, our software, but we also use Elliott Wave fibs and simple trend lines and look for things like that. We look at fair value gaps, order blocks, liquidity, all that kind of good stuff when we tailor an analysis. So hopefully we'll be able to give you good information, but realize that's my opinion, all right? So you still need to run any ideas past your financial advisor that you may get here, just to be sure they're suitable for you, because I don't know your personal situation, okay? So that's really important just to note before we get going. Here's a couple of books I've written. Trader's Money Management System, published by Wiley. And then I got The Money Management Trader on the other side, both great books. And I recommend both of them if you're trying to put together a good risk control program. My newest book, The Art of Trading, which is the second edition. First edition came out in 2008. And this one is published by Wiley as well. And I think this is one of the best books I've written. I tried to really be comprehensive in this book. It's about 608 pages, so it's a big book, but there's a lot of good information in there and a lot of current information in there regarding today's markets and the technology that we use today compared to a long time ago. I've got a book on Elliott Wave techniques simplified. That was a book that was published by McGraw-Hill that I wrote for them. And then Survival Guide for Traders, another Wiley book. on how to run your trading business like a professional hedge fund. So I'll put a link up in the recording for these books, as well as if you're interested in our software too, but they're also on the website. So please note that. And speaking of software, that brings us to our software page. And we have charting software, we have scanners. I'm not going to go into details on this, but I'll show you how it works when we look at charts today. And then I have risk control software as well. So you can buy this as a bundle, or you can buy it a la carte. And don't neglect risk control. All right, risk control is really a very important piece of the trading pie. I'd say probably one of the most important pieces, because you could take a system that wins 50% of the time, and with good risk control, turn that into a profitable system. So don't forget that, okay? And give us a like today. And let's jump into a couple charts I have on the Dow Jones. Now, these charts were done last Sunday, and I do it for a report I put out. But I'm just going to briefly go over this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. But basically, we came down to an order block here on the left-hand chart. So this is the daily chart, and this is the weekly chart, just to give you some reference. And this was some structure here with an order block area here. We came down here, hit that. So no surprise, we bounced off that and started moving up. We think it's probably the next area of resistance is going to be this area of structure here. And we're pretty much there, I think, this week. So we'll see what happens with that. Long-term chart over here, you can see we bounced off that trend line as well. So if we go into a major correction, that correction would be in between these two blue lines, okay? But I'm not saying we're going to do that, but that is a possibility if this thing gets worse. I kind of think we may go down again and visit the lows one more time, but I don't know if we're going to go into a bear market right now. I think there's too much energy to the upside still left in the market. We also have a lot of stocks, for example, Nvidia, Tesla, that I think are going to make new highs here by the end of the year. So if those big boys make new highs, then it kind of stands to reason that the overall market is probably going to move up and make new highs. And Bitcoin is certainly joining the parade as well. Hopefully you were able to get in when we talked about that a few months ago. All right, so a little more detail on this. This is the Dow Jones daily chart here. And basically, you can see this is an Elliott wave. That's what that wave 5 stands for the target zone. And that is based off a long-term trend that goes back to about 2009. So this is a major area of importance here. We hit it. We had a double top, inverse shoulders, and we sold off down to that support area I was talking about. Unless we go below this major support here at 32,327, all this movement to the downside is simply profit taking, fear-based short-term news and things like that. But if we go below that major support, then we have something to worry about, okay? So far we haven't. Now, this indicator here is one I created called the PTF, and it stands for Precision Trend Filter. And that's a mouthful. And basically when it's red, all right, it has a 75% accuracy rate, by the way, but when it's red, find the lowest price in the red area, and there's a 75% probability it's going to drop down and go below that. So that's why I'm thinking we'll probably have maybe one more move to the downside. But again, that move to the downside doesn't mean it's going to go below this support. So, okay, so we could go down like this and then make another high. So just stay tuned. You know, we'll update this every week, and you can come by and check out the latest. S&P 500, same thing, okay? Pretty much all the major indexes are in sync, moving up off this structured area here. All right, so Bitcoin here. Hopefully you were with us a while back in April and March. This was a buy zone for Bitcoin, and this is the sell zone up here. So the sell zone is between around 114 to 137, and Bitcoin as we speak is at what, 104 and some change. So we're kind of moving up here towards the sell area. That sell area should be significant because once the market reaches there, we should start to see, we don't know how high it's going to go in there yet, but once it reaches into that area, then we have to look for selling pressure to come in. And if it ends the trend up, then that's going to probably be quite a while. It will move down for quite a while. So you may want to think about liquidating in that area if you're a Bitcoin person. If you plan to give your Bitcoin to your grandkids, then you don't have to worry about it, okay? But otherwise, you're probably going to want to liquidate there because it could be a protracted and fairly long correction after that sell zone is hit. And hopefully you're able to get in down in the buy zone here because we've been talking about that for quite some time. All right, so let me go over to the live charts here. I'm going to come out of this and we'll start looking at stocks you guys want to look at. Just a little update on the current market situation. You can still see it's moved up into that structured area here. So I would anticipate at some point we see a little bit of a pullback again in the markets. All right, I do want to start out. I'm going to share a couple stocks with you guys, all right? And one is we've been talking about NVIDIA, all right? And again, please contact your financial advisor to see if this makes sense. And we're not trying to front run any of these stocks or anything like that because we actually mentioned them when they were heading down, right? But in any case, the NVIDIA target is around 170 to 224. It's moved off its wave 4 bottom, and we recommended this one as a buy a week or so ago. That's your 3. That's your Elliott wave 5. Our target, again, is 170 to 224. So we think that looks pretty good. We also think Tesla looks good. Tesla was got beaten down. Especially when Elon Musk went into the Doge area, okay? That kind of, he took some hits on that, but it got a little overdone and now it's moving back up as well. So actually when you see a big stock like either NVIDIA or Tesla come down to these structured areas and we see a bounce off that, that is definitely a buy opportunity, okay? And so I expect new highs on Tesla reaching between 453 and over 590 to up to 596. So that would be the target. And let me just move that over here. And this is what I'm talking about as the target. Okay, I'll just put T for target. All right, so that's, I think, 2 good ones I'd want to share. And of course, you can check with your financial advisor to be sure they're suitable for you. All right, that's all from me. Now let's get into you guys. All right, Stuart. GM, I think that's good morning. Hopefully not. All right. Hopefully it's not the stock GM, but you let me know if it is. But a good morning to you as well. All right. So let's go in. Stu's got Nike. All right. NKE. Let's take a look at that one. All right. Nike, the shoe company. I like Nikes, but they're a little too narrow for me. I wish they made a wider shoe. All right. So let's see how the stock looks here. All right, give me a second. All right, so you're saying too early, your thoughts on the profit level. Okay, well, yeah, a little too early. I like the price pattern of the bounce, but here's the problem, this red PTF. So I think one more, I don't think the low's in, I guess is what I'm trying to say on that. So I think profit target, when this thing finally gets to a bottom and recovers, there's a lot of white space up here, isn't there? All right, so there's a lot of movement. If you wanted to be super conservative when you're ready to go long, you could just do a fib retracement on the weekly chart if you're going to hold this for a while. And we're talking, you know, quickly getting up to 79 to 96. Okay, we're at 63. But if that's a bottom, it's probably going to go a lot higher than that. Okay, so I would hold off on that. I think you're spot on indicating that maybe it's a little too early, but keep bringing it back and we will certainly check that out. Hal, how are you this morning? All right, WMT, Walmart. All right, give that a second to load. The data gods are slow today. Okay, there you go. It shouldn't be. Let me just bring all these things down. Sometimes the volatility affects how those look. Okay, so, all right, so we've had a little correction. I'm going to open up the weekly chart for just a moment. Don't forget weekly chart long term. All right, when you see a hyperbolic move in the market like this, I mean, then boom, look at that. That is a wave 3 in terms of an Elliott wave account. So that's a big deal. Now, we've had a slight move down, but let's see if that move down correlates to a major 4, because certain requirements have to be met for a major 4. So let me just go back enough time in history, kind of had a 1 up here. So I think I'm going to classify this as 2 right here and bring it on up. And we didn't quite make it to the high probability wave 4 zone. So if this was a 3, this would be our wave 4 zone right here. Now, 70% of the time we hit this area on wave 4s. 15% of the time we're a little shallow. 15% of the time we go deeper, but do not go into wave 1. Okay. All right. So that situation there didn't quite make it to the high probability. And it always makes things a lot more difficult when it doesn't, because sometimes it doesn't, and then you miss the move, right? We'll go down to the lower time frames. I'm trying to see if there's an ABC correction in there. It looks like we might have had a slight one, but then again, we may have a more broad-based one, and then eventually bring it down into the target zone. So kind of a tough one, okay? We do have a green PTF, so there's no question that we're going to make new highs. The question is, are we going to have a deeper correction before the new highs? That's really the question. And we have a yellow PTF here. We have some structure here. And maybe, it's always possible, too, that this could be a minor 4 still inside the major wave 3, but I don't think so. All right, I think this little hook to the upside was your final push on that. If you wanted to go in a little bit here, you certainly could do that and maybe keep some money aside in case it dips down again, and you can add into it and lower cost basis if it goes back into this target zone. But at the same point, you won't miss it, so to speak. So I'm not going to recommend this to everybody, but I'm going to leave this out up to you on whether you want to go into this. It's not as clear cut as we like it, which makes it a little more difficult. Okay. FAST. Now, long term, if you want to invest in Walmart, hey, go for it. But don't be worried about pullbacks and things like that. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at your next one, FAST. And see. Okay. There we go. All right, so on FAST here, kind of a little bit of a volatile stock, right? So, in other words, if you try to trade this and you had your stop too tight, you wouldn't get very far. All right, weekly chart here indicates, all right, I think I'd stay away from this for a variety of reasons. A, it's too late, okay? We've got bearish divergence building in the owl here. We've certainly been coming up for a long time, years. Could it make another high? It could, but you have really more risk to the downside, all right? I usually like to try to get into things, as you know, a little bit on the early side. So I think you may be chasing the market here. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. Let's take a look at CME, which of course is GameStop. Give that a second to load. Look at that spike back in 2021. Unbelievable, huh? Okay, so we'll call this spiky. All right, so we got a green PTF on the weekly chart. We had a pull down, bottom situation here. We have not gone below this bottom on the chart on the right? Same thing with the left, but this is easier to see. So that's a good sign, spike up, and we certainly have been going sideways. So, when a market goes sideways, like on a channel like this, the problem with that is if you get caught in that channel, your money may stay dormant, in this case, for a year or two. And that's not always the best use of your money, is it? So you got to be careful with that. So I probably wait for a more significant breakout. I mean, you know, you got a pyramid telling you to buy here. Everything is green here. So it looks great. And it probably will be. But what you don't know is how long it could stay dormant before it continues further. So maybe what I would do here is go to the daily chart, grab a upper boundary of that consolidation. And if we break above that, you go long. Okay. So what is that price? That's going to be about 35. Let's say if it gets to 35, because I think the high on that's 34 and some change, then you go long. Okay. Otherwise, put your money someplace else, that type of thing. All right. All right, Al. Thank you. Let's see. Let's go back up. Lowell, you are next, I believe. All right. Thanks for keeping it to 3 stocks, everybody. I think it just keeps it moving better. All right. KR. Let's take a look at Kroger here and see what's cooking on that. Give that a second to load. And this is one, of course, we've looked at before. And on this one here, we had a buy on it early on, but now it's reached its target zone, right? So, you know, here's a situation. Do you want to go long when it's already hit its target zone? Probably not, right? So maybe a short position could be considered, but it's too early for that as well because the weekly chart still shows quite a bit of strength. This is our owl indicator at the top, in case you were wondering what that was. It's a histogram that measures the momentum pushing the stock, so to speak. So it's still pretty high, so I'd be a little reluctant to go short on that. It is starting to fail on the daily chart, but not on the weekly chart. And we really may see a bounce when we get down to this trend line back to the upside. Again, I think it's too early for a short, and I'd be hesitant on a long because it's already in the target area. So I think there's more risk going long here than short. Okay. Let's take a look at your next one, TNXP. I'm not sure I know what that is. TNXP. This looks like, what is this, an ETF or something? Look, you know what this is. I'm not familiar with this one. All right, so this one here, but you know what? Using technicals is a beautiful thing. Sometimes we don't even care what the stock is or the ETF is, right? We just don't want to miss the trend. All right, so on this one, a definite perk up from the bottom. No question about it. This one had a spike back in, looks like in December of 24, and then calm back down. Not a lot of, let's see what we got for history on this. It's kind of interesting. Not a lot of history, which makes the reading difficult. We did, you know, it's bottoming here. You technically have a buy on the daily chart on this, but not quite on the weekly chart. So if you wanted to wait for a little bit confirmation, you got to get above this level here, and that will turn our pyramid into a buy pyramid. These pyramids here are part of the ART software, and what they do is they take a look at price pattern identification and look at fractals. They look at momentum in the formation of the pattern and things like that. So they do a great job of keeping you in a trend and not missing a trend. So on this one here, if you want an early entry, you certainly could take it. Where is it going to go? Well, the green PTF here says we're going to go pretty darn far. Okay, that's almost 3 times your money, if not 4, I guess. So that's not a bad risk to reward, right? So I guess if you wanted to go into this, you could and put your stop at the very bottom or at least under this major area here. And you might have to wait a while before it gets up there, obviously. But the danger you have is if this thing stays bracketed, like I was explaining before, for quite a bit of time. So I'm going to put this down as a possibility, but with a caveat of not for everybody. Okay. Interesting one though. ARKQ. And again, probably be a good idea to just check out what kind of instrument that is. All right. So you put it in the chat area. I will tell everybody later on when I get to that post. Okay. So KQ. Let's see on this one here. All right, got more history on this. Let me open up that weekly chart for a momento. So 3, we had a big correction coming back up. Green PTF, that's a good sign. So let's take a look now at the daily chart. And we've got a nice move up here. Okay, you had quite a bit of structure here, which pretty much, I think, stopped that downtrend here. You know, when you talk about structure, basically structure is nothing more than an area where the market tends to get bracketed for a while before continuing. And so it's also an area where it can stop movement. And it usually has some significance because if you're into volume profile and things like that, there's a lot of profile there. So it usually acts as support or resistance areas. And in this case, not unusual to bring it down. Looks like they almost brought it down to this area here, where you had another area here. So it's not unusual to go a little bit below, but it looks like it did provide a support area in combination with this area down here. Let me just draw that. So you had a little bit of an area here and here. Okay, so that area there kind of had a little confluence, and then you're moving up. So I would imagine you're going to make new highs here. My only thing with suggesting this is that you're probably going to get a pullback before getting those highs. So do you want to go in now, or do you want to wait for the pullback? All right, so that is a personal decision. So I'm not going to recommend it. If we were down in here and one of these pyramids just got hit, I would say, yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's put this, I'm going to put this on the watch list so we can come back and see and grab it when it pulls back. But, you know, depending on what your long-term objectives are, if this is one you're considering and you don't care if it pulls back at all, then by all means, looks pretty good. But otherwise, I'd wait. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. All right. Thank you, Lowell. Okay, Al is back. All right. We were long in your room, finally gapped up, nice profit. Okay, so he's referring to, I think, the yummy room right now. So the yummy room is another thing that we do here, and he is in that. So let me, whoops, I lost that. Sorry, hold on. Let me get your stuff. There it is. Okay. All right. So let me do SCPN. All right. So yeah, there's the gap he's talking about. Not much history. So we looked at this, it was a little while ago, I guess. I don't know if it was last week or maybe the weeks previous, but this was our target. So it looks like it's moving out up to the target. So if you were able to get in pretty early, good job. You still got some profit left in this, I think. We may pull down a little bit into the gap area. Sometimes that does it. Sometimes it doesn't. But in any case, I think it's going up to the target, which is 1372 to 1964. So congrats on that one. All right, Bradley, how are you? Good morning to you too. All right. Well, we looked at Tesla, and you know, Tesla is one that we certainly like, and I think we mentioned this, as I said, a couple of weeks ago, and it's bounced off its bottom real good. Our target on this one is around 453 to 596 with a PTF target of at least 488. Okay, so you should be pretty good there. So here is, you know, areas where there was structure, bounced off that, and now it's heading back up. And don't forget, Tesla, you know, not only makes cars, but they're getting into robotics. You know, I think it's what do they call it, the Optimus 3 or something. I definitely want to get one of those when those things are coming out. I might wait for the second generation, let them get the bugs out on the first one. But what they've improved so greatly in the robotic area is the hands, the motion of the textile, so they can pick up things real good. They were having trouble with that years ago, but I think they've improved that. But Tesla's a leader in that. All right, so not only cars, but robotics. And I think robotics is going to be a big, big thing going forward. So yeah, I'm liking Tesla. I recommend that as a buy. And you may get a pullback because it's run up so quickly so much. But again, I think it's a big boy that's going to make new highs this year probably. And when I say that, how can you have a bear market when some of these big stocks like Nvidia and Tesla are going to make new highs based on our analysis? So, it's always possible, but doesn't seem like we're quite ready for a bear market quite yet. All right, let's take a look at your next one, IBTA, moving off. Okay, what I like is the PTF down here just turned green. So that when it goes from a green to a red or a red to a green, that means it was wrong. And it's wrong 25% of the time. So that solidifies an uptrend. Okay, so that's a good thing. All right, so now the only thing that's concerning here is on the weekly chart, we had a huge bearish fair value gap. And a fair value gap requires 3 price bars. And basically you have a gap between price bar 2 and 3. And usually the market, because it's an auction, drives in to fill that and then can go back down. So that kind of creates a little bit of anxiousness on whether I want to go long. It doesn't always happen. All right, maybe this would be the last. Maybe this was a manipulation type of bar where they were running stops and now they're going to move it up. That's possible too. Not a lot of history in there for me to make a judgment. So we have filled the gap. All right, but the PTF did turn green on here. So there's a little bit, let's just take a look at that. There's just not a lot of history for me to get a good handle on this. I'm not even sure what the stock does. But yeah, I think for me personally, I'm not going to recommend it. If you wanted to try to take it, okay. But, it's also run up quite a bit. So you could get a pullback on that before we have anything decisive on what it's going to do. So I kind of think unless you really know what this stock does and have a good idea of what it is, technically it's not showing me much that I can make a sound basis for an A+ trade. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. But you may know a lot more about it than I do. All right, Eleanor, how are you? AVGO. All right, increase position size. So you're in this already, and you want to know if you should increase the position size. I think that's what you're asking. So let's let that load here. Okay. All right, so currently it's at 229. Funny, we're not getting a lot of history on that daily chart. Let me just go into my data series here. 3,000 bars, we should get a little more than that, right? Interesting. Okay, so the weekly chart has it. So wave 3, got a red PTF. Let me open this up a little bit. So wave 3, okay, is this wave 4 finished? That's the question. So I think we'll draw some fibs on this and get a quick little idea of what's going on with this. I think probably we'll draw it from here to here. So we hit the wave 4 target. This probably would have been a little bit better area to have bought it, obviously. When it hit that target area, we had a little bit of support here as well. Okay, so I think this was definitely a wave 4. The question is, ABC could be complete, or we could see this. So let's get it over here before increasing position size. And if you're an investor and it comes back down, I don't think you need to get out of it because I think more highs are coming. My question is, there's a little bit of an area here. And why am I focusing on that? That may be a B wave. All right, so if that's the case, we got to get above that. But I'm going to assume we're done with 4 here. We almost got a green owl down here. If you wanted to wait for that to turn green, you could certainly just do that. And when it does it, you could buy. Then the next question is, where's the target on this? All right, so for that, we'll draw fib extensions using the same points. And the target on this would be 282, I'm sorry, 282 to 372. All right, so certainly, okay, I think maybe the correction's over. But yeah, okay, if you wanted to add on to that, but then take it off when you get up here, okay? Let's take a look at your next one, PLTR. Now, for an initial trade, I would tell folks, not so sure, because unless you're going to hold that through thick and thin, and Eleanor, I know you do that. So otherwise, for those others, wait for a better earlier entry. Okay, she's been in already. All right, on this one here, PLTR on the weekly chart, we're looking at still, we have bearish divergence. Again, this one did make its high. All right, so I would not go into this one now. Do not increase. We've had a bunch of pyramids in a row. Let's see where the target is on this. I mean, right now, I think the target on the PTF is not helping as much because it's only saying the high of the price bar. So let's try to get an idea on where this thing is going. Let me just see. That's a low. Move up. I'm going to call this 2 here. So let's draw that from here, here, and here. See, we're almost at the target, 136 to 178. So I don't think I would add on to this one. I think if you got a position on this, you may want to think of actually selling some of it, okay, at some point. I think probably more highs are coming, so you don't have to sell it now, but we can look at it again as the weeks roll by to see if there's selling pressure coming in once that weekly chart reaches the target. All right, Meta. Looked at Meta before, reached its wave 4 target down here. Now we're getting a bounce off there. We've got green, green, and green. So, you know, you're probably going to get a little bit of a pullback here. I'm pretty sure we'll get more highs on Meta. We didn't go too deep into the target zone, which is always like it to go to the 50% mark. I always feel better when it does that. But, you know, you had a lot of structured support here to keep it afloat, so to speak. Okay, you had all this area in here. I mean, you know, from here all the way to here, you had some major structure going all the way back. So trying to see if you have a little bit of an ABC. Yep, you have it. So yeah, I'm thinking probably will breach its high here at some point. Let's just kind of see where this thing could be going. Besides just the PTF high. And the fib target zone for a wave 5, looks, if that's the bottom, is 885 to 1134. So you could probably add into that. Okay. Good. All right. Al's back with TPET. And we're going to have to wrap it up here pretty soon. We're reaching our half-an-hour limit. And it's Friday and the markets are open. So I'm going to go trade the NASDAQ in a minute after this. All right, the TBET. So what do we got cooking there? Al, too soon for a long, okay? Bring it back next week. All right. MSTR or Terry. Hi, Terry. Okay, MSTR. Let's see what we got there. All right, so this one pulled down to its wave 4 target. We don't have a new high yet, so we technically don't have bearish divergence on the weekly chart. We got a green PTF. Let's take a look and see where the target is. Yeah, that really gnawed really good into that area here. That's a good sign. Pretty much had a major structure area here. So I think that wave 4 looks to me like it's over. And let's go ahead and bring it on up for a target here. So I'm thinking a target of 553 to 754 on that. And we're at 400. So this looks pretty good. I'm going to put this one down as a buy. The only thing is, you know, you can always use options because the problem is where you're going to put your stop. I would not, you know, when you have a pyramid this close to the price action, and you haven't had a big pullback yet. Problem is you could get a profit-taking wave and it would take you out before it goes further. The other problem is where are you going to put your stop? You're going to put it down here. You have a little structure here. Maybe you could put it under there. That would be structure off the high. But you'd probably be better off doing an option here and just buying, enough of the option so your risk is no more than 2% of your account. All right. Let's see what we got here. DBRG. Okay, so let's see what we got here. DBRG. All right, so DBRG is, we had a little structure here, a little liquidity down here. Okay. Nice long downtrend. Let's see what we got here. Again, a little bit of a move down there. All right, so you got a red, well, red just turned green. I'm sorry, green PTF there. So that's looking pretty good. Let me open up that weekly chart just a little bit more. Okay, we go back to 2015. So we're right near its low. Okay. Not enough of a movement up yet on the weekly chart for me to really say this looks like a good buy. So what I'd like to see, let me just open this up. What I'd like to see is a move up, a pullback, bottom holds, and then another move up and a buy here. That's the safer bet, okay? So that's a possibility. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I'm thinking probably this could be not a bad trade, but Al, I get it. Let's put this on the watch list and look at this next week, okay? You won't miss it if you wait a little bit for it. I also want to see next week if we get a fair value gap in here, because if we do, I'll probably just tell you to buy it. All right, because if this is a fair value gap, that's a really good sign. And then if we get one, this is the weekly, if we get one down here, all right, as well, then you'll have a situation where you have confluence on both time frames, and that's, if you get a fair value gap in here, that's a pretty good sign. Some people, what they'll do when they have that, they'll wait for it to go on up and it will go up, and then they'll place an order in the fair value gap on the next pullback, and then from there it should go. Okay, so there's two schools of thought. Some people go in as soon as there's a fair value gap off a bottom, what they feel is a bottom, which is this case, or they'll wait for the next major pullback into the fair value gap, look for support, and then go. Okay, so depends on how that. All right, Mr. Andre, how are you? Okay, so on internet connection, I have 2 gigabytes, so pretty fast speed. My computer has, I guess, the latest i7 chip. I have about, I think, 32 gigabytes of memory, so I'm pretty good there. I think the problem with the data may be the fact that I probably have a lot of charts open on other monitors. Okay, so I probably should kill some of those charts for a faster load. But thank you for that. All right, so that's going to be it for today. I see quite a few more stocks, but we're at 44 minutes here. Let me just see. All right, let's see what we got here. Eleanor's got a bunch here. Eleanor, I'll just do a few quick ones here, a few quick analysis here. And we'll kind of take it up. It may be, also too, I use Kinetic, and Kinetic's been kind of slow a little bit. That's a Ninja Trader provider. Okay, so on this one here, we're looking at, I'm just going to put yours up right up there. All right, stay long. You're good. Okay, no reason to get out. GCT, let's see what we got here. All right, nice movement off the bottom, pull back. The weekly chart kind of needs a little bit more info on this. Again, very similar to the others, probably get a pullback here. Let's see, be interesting to see next week. That fair value gap should hold there. So I'm looking, I think that's pretty good too on this one. But again, don't be surprised if you get a full pullback, 50% of where it's gone. So you're talking, in that first pullback can almost be 100% sometimes. So I guess I'd wait for the pullback. But if you were wanting to go long and just hold it, I don't see a problem with that on GTC. Okay, SMCI. Let's take a look at that. All right. Yeah, all these are bouncing off their bottoms. Okay. Weekly, daily chart looks pretty decent. Weekly chart's got a little bit more maturity to go for that. Okay. All right, Frank, we'll take a look at yours. CNXC. All right, we had a little bit of support down here. So that's moving off its support. We broke the trend line here. We've got a pyramid here. We got green here, green here. So this actually looks pretty good. Target, short-term target, right just off the indicator here would be around 60, above 65. So not too bad. All right, so this one we could call that as a recommendation there. So I would continue to hold that one. And anybody that would be interested in doing that, take it, put your stop under this level here. All right, or here. All right, and then William, good to see you. Let's wrap it up with yours here. NTAP. And give that a second to load. All right, let me do BJ's too, okay? I don't want to leave you out. Okay, so I don't know if you're long or short on this. Got a red PTF, so I'm looking at this as a basically a dead cat bounce. You got a bearish fair value gap here. We're hitting that now. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe get up to 110 and then see it drop back down for another low. So it's got to fill this gap here, and you see that vividly on the weekly chart. So I would not be long on that right now. All right, unless things change. All right, and then BJ South, let's take a look at GLD, which is the ETF for gold. And I think we're seeing a little pullback on gold right now. And I've got a wave 4 target area if it goes into something deeper. But, that is still a very strong owl. All right, so I don't think we're going down here. This is just, I drew in case we did. But I think probably come down here, we'll fill this fair value gap here and move up for new highs. So gold is not done being gold, okay? Definitely more movement to the upside. If you want to go in for that next leg up, wait for this pullback to show some promise back to the upside, and then I think you can do it. All right, so let's just wait and see what happens with that. Don't go in yet because it's still coming down. All right, and then UUP. All right, UUP, let's see what's cooking with that one. All right, definitely almost got a triple bottom on the weekly chart. Let's see, take a look at that. Let me just show you where that is kind of. That's this area here, over to here. All right. Still got a little bit of negative momentum there. We're switching to green momentum here. You know what you could do on this one? Let's just run a fib here just to make sure. Yeah, so that hit right smack where it should. That's kind of interesting. All right. Almost made a new high here. So this is definitely either a complex correction or a failed wave 5. If it's a failed wave 5, that's not good. But what I would do is I would go ahead and go long, put your stop under here, under this low area here. And if you get taken out, get out. So that would be 26, put it at 26.90, okay, your stop. And from there, the idea would be new highs, okay? So if we put in a fib, simple fib retracement off this, So you're talking barely new highs, 30.97 to 33. Okay. I don't think this is for everybody because it is a complex correction, and you can see it's lasted for years. So who's to say this can't stall out for another couple of years before making a high? So not my favorite for that reason. Okay. All right, guys, have a great weekend. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I know we went a little bit over, but I do like to try to get to everybody's picks. I don't like to shortchange you out there. I think I did that. So hopefully I did that. So anyway, have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here at next Friday. But just to summarize, I think the market's going to make all-time highs again. All right. So I'm kind of thinking that. Then when it does that, then we have to worry about a bear market. I mean, a bear market's out there. And, if we sell off below those support levels I showed you, then that changes what I'm saying. But you've got so many major tech stocks that have looked like they have completed their wave fours and they're on to the next wave 5 highs. So I don't see how you can have a bear market with that kind of projection, especially on things like Tesla and NVIDIA. All right. So have a good one, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks so much.